welcome back to Coffee and Praise. Favor to you and peace from Elohim, our Father, and the Master Yeshua Messiah. It comes from Philippians 1:2. I just love how these letters here start mostly with something like that in the first 2 or 3 verses. And I just wanted to share that here today. I started sharing about Journey to Healing a while back, and today I picked up this book out of my bookshelf again. I think I shared something about it before, the Body Clutter book. And this is by Marla, I don't know if she says her name Silly or Siley, and Leanne Eli. I think that's how they pronounce their names. But it's the Fly Lady and the Dinner Diva. You may have heard about them before from... I'd heard about the Fly Lady years ago from her cleaning videos. The Dinner Diva I hadn't heard until I picked up this book. So that's something I want to look more into. But I had read this back in 2023. I did this in May, I guess, of last year, and I started journaling through it because at the end of each chapter, she gives something to think about, something to journal about, and I just wanted to read a few quotes from this. I know all of us, or at least most of us, are on some type of journey to healing, whether it be physical health, mental health, or just life in general, different things that happen in our lives. This one is specifically talking about weight, but I think it can be used for just about anything. And one of the quotes that stood out to me in the introduction is this: if we can figure out for ourselves how we acquired the body clutter in the first place and the attitude that put it there, then we are a step closer to eliminating it from our body. If we declutter the negative thinking first, it is going to help us stop gaining more body clutter. Then by replacing our negative thought patterns with positive ones, we will gradually decrease the body clutter we already have. I know that for me, and I'm sure a lot of people out there who struggle with their weight, it stems from some kind of health issue. Now, some of us, it's just a bad habit of eating the wrong foods, and not exercising, not taking care of ourselves. And I think that's true even when you do have health issues, because sometimes we don't know that we have a health issue, but we're still eating wrong to begin with, so it just exasperates that. And so I think that was partly what is the issue in my case. There were certain things when I was really young that I was dealing with that I didn't really realize or didn't really know that was going on until later on in life, like in my 30s, when I was diagnosed with a few things that were probably going on back then. And one of those things that I knew, I guess kind of more so that it was going on, I didn't know what it was called, but when I was very young, I was dealing with a lot of pain, and ended up in the emergency room and almost had to have surgery for a cyst in my ovary, or on my ovary. It was the size of a tennis ball. I was 12. I was supposed to go back, I believe, a week or 2 after that initial visit to have surgery, but I went back and it was gone. Now, I'll share something that someone shared with me back then, or shared with my mom back then, to give me. I'm not a doctor. I do not know if this will work with your body. This is something that you would have to, talk to someone about and do your own research. But at the time, one of my aunts, I believe it was her aunt as well, had told her for me to try black cohosh. I don't remember how I took it. I don't remember if my mom got it in a capsule form or if it was in a tea. I'm not sure. But I don't know if that's what did it. But when I went back, the cyst was gone, and it didn't burst as far as I know, because I didn't get that extreme pain of when they burst, of what from what I've heard of, that people get. But after that, a few years later, I noticed weight gain, and I didn't change anything I was eating. As a matter of fact, I pretty much, from what I remember back then, I didn't eat a whole lot in school. I wouldn't eat in the cafeteria, and I think a lot of that was because I do have some food allergies. They're not extreme, but they're bad enough that they were uncomfortable. And I think that was I was going through partially then, because some of the stuff would make me feel sick, so I just wouldn't eat. But I didn't know why, and I didn't. Something that I will share maybe more about later when I share more about the growing slow. I'll just kind of put that out here so you kind of can understand why I wouldn't share about how I was feeling. I have, since I was very young, I don't like to share how I feel, whether that's emotionally or physically or anything with anyone. It takes me a lot to share, and if I share that with someone, it's usually just a snippet of it. Why I do that or why I did that, I don't know. I don't know if that was just a learned behavior or something that I saw other people do, or where that comes from, but I know part of my feeling is I don't want to be a burden to people. And more recently, and I guess it's been over the last few years, that I'm trying to work through all that. I've been in counseling for a number of years. I struggled with that as well, because it was the same kind of thing. It was the idea of sharing what I was feeling with someone else. Now, granted, she's not someone that is in my life personally, so she doesn't know me. She doesn't know, all these things about me, grew up around me or anything like that. So it was a little bit easier in a way to like share things and leave them there. But for the longest time, I would, and I still do this now, I'll just share what I'm doing that day, or if a certain specific thing bothered me that day, that someone did to me, or someone said, but I never really deal with what triggered that emotion or anything, and where it comes from. So that's kind of what all this healing journey is about. And I tried doing this in my own power, as I've said before. I tried saying, okay, well, if I just jump on this diet, if I just do this, if I just do this, if I just do whatever, then I'm going to be able to change this, whatever it was. And it works for a little while. But outside of really allowing God to guide this journey, it's not going to work. And I know a lot of people out there think, oh, you don't need God for everything. You need to do it yourself. And yes, the physical steps that we take, they are our own, and they are choices that we have to make. So I do need to make the choice of eat or do not eat this, and how it's going to affect my body. When I eat, what time I eat, how much water I have, how much coffee I have, exercise. I need to physically take those steps, but the power behind those steps, where my strength comes from, is from the Lord. It can't be just from me, because it will not work. And I know that maybe not everyone's going to agree with that, and that's okay. I just hope that sharing my journey and the things that I've been through can maybe give some of you hope and lead you to Yeshua, Jesus, and salvation through him, because that's all that matters. So anything that I share, the only reason I'm sharing it is because of who he is in my life. And like I've shared before, I grew up in church. So I don't have that kind of story or testimony of I was out in the world doing all these things, and then one day, he reached out to me, changed my life, whatever it was. I don't have that type of testimony like so many do. Mine is more of the things that I did to step out of his will, because I chose I chose to walk with him at a very young age. I never once that I can remember doubted this, doubted that he was real, doubted the Bible was real, doubted anything about it. It just made sense to me as a child. And even as I grew older, as we get more skeptical and we learn all these things from the outside, going to school and even just things that my, friends or other people around me are doing. And yes, those things did affect me. And yes, I did step out of my walk with God, which I will share more about that as well. But there was such a strong connection that I had with him as a child that as a teenager, through my adulthood, in those times that I did step out of where he wanted me, the conviction was there and I couldn't ignore it. Now, back to the quote that I shared. Now, like I said, there's so many reasons for why we have body clutter or even clutter of our minds and all that. Now, for me, it started with this thing that I didn't know what it was. Now I know what it is now, polycystic ovarian syndrome. I still don't know what to do about it. That's some research I'm doing now. I haven't really had a doctor or specialist or anything really work with me on that. And partially that's my fault because I just I'll just figure it out or I'll just ignore it and it'll go away. It is also hard to find people who work with some of these things because maybe there's not enough research. I don't know. I don't know why, but it is hard. Being that it started with that situation, I was 12. So you're already in that, almost a teenager, and things are changing. The attitudes of the other kids at school. And a little while after that, I started gaining a little bit of weight. And it was just very little at first, but enough that I was different, and I didn't necessarily, I don't really remember being picked on because of it in school very much. I mean, I'm sure there was some, and maybe I blocked that out. Maybe I don't know. I don't think there was as much as directly towards me. Maybe people, made faces. I don't know. I'm sure there was some of that. But I'm my own worst critic, as most of us are. And so I was really harsh with myself. And because I didn't know what was going on and I was changing everything I could. And I mean, all to the point to where I wouldn't eat all day except for when I got home from school. But then, of course, I was eating things that weren't that great for me, which basically was chips and homemade tortillas. And I mean, that was like my go-to snack. I wasn't really a big sweet eater or soda drinker or anything like that. So my go-to is chips, and still is to this day. And so I didn't understand that if you just didn't eat at all or enough and you ate these kinds of snacks that have no real value, nutritional value, your body was going to react in a way that it thought you were starving it, so it would store fat. So, that's all of how it started. Now, there are other things that I've been diagnosed with in my 30s, as far as I can remember, that may have been something that I was dealing with back then, hypothyroidism, because that runs in my dad's side of the family. And it wasn't something, even when I was diagnosed, I wasn't having some of this stuff that some people complain about, I guess, to be checked for that. Like, I was always tired, but I never had sleep or things like that. So the reason why I was checked was because of family history. And just because of all the tiredness and the weight gain. And then I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, which they all kind of, I guess, for lack of a better word, work together. So normally if you have one and it's not taken care of, and you can get the other ones. So I have like the perfect storm here. So it has been really hard for me to lose weight in the, I guess, the traditional way that people can just, go work out and you seem to lose weight, and, you change your eating habits, you lose weight, and it works for a while, but then it's like it doesn't, I know that you go through a plateau time, but this is like, it just doesn't work anymore. That thing doesn't work. And a lot of it is something to do with these, I don't know what you call them. They're that word is metabolic system. And, I think with thyroid and all that, if I'm not mistaken, that does affect your hormones. I know I'm 46, so, the change of life, it's, I know that affects this as well. So everything got a lot harder back last year in January. So I decided that maybe it was, I need to do a lot more research. I need to really work on what is good for me. And part of that is these videos. Sometimes I babble a lot and lose track of where I'm going. Sometimes I start all over again. I'm hoping that I can keep on track. One thing that she talks about that I don't know that I'm a comfort eater. I mean, maybe it is, because sometimes when I'm stressed out, then I will eat something. Or if I'm maybe more like a bored eater, like I get bored and I eat something. I don't know. It's something that I'm trying to work on and figure that out. A little bit later on in the chapter, or on that same page in the introduction, she says she goes to get a chocolate ice pop out of the freezer. And this is the quote that I underlined. "What made me do that? It was almost instinctive. Immediately I saw what it was. A band-aid to comfort my hurting soul. This is how I used to deal with my hurt feelings. I would head to the refrigerator to stuff my face, so I would not have to deal with what was really wrong." And I think that's true for a lot of us. We, even if it's not food, it could be anything. Shopping, it could be anything that we can consume, whether that is TV, binge watching things while eating a bag of chips, or smoking, or drinking, or whatever. There's all the things that we use to cover up something, to deal with something that we don't want to face head on. And I think part of that reason is because, well, it's hard. It requires humility. And it requires us to slow down and really find out why. Why we're doing it. And sometimes, excuse me, daylight savings time, or whatever it is. Forward. Jump forward. Okay. Later on in the introduction, she says, "The interesting thing about body clutter is it is always there for a reason. It isn't just about overeating or not getting enough exercise. The reasons can vary, but getting to the heart of the matter and finding out why the body clutter is there in the first place can be the first step toward liberation." And then later on, she says, I didn't underline this, but it just popped out from the page to me. It says, "One of the most comforting things I learned was that who I am does not equal my dress size. I am a unique woman, a child of God with talents, gifts, and abilities that reach beyond the superficiality of size. I hope that when I'm gone, the things said about me will never be about my weight, the size of my jeans, or what color lipstick I wore. Instead, I hope they will say things about my character, and that I was a good mom and a good friend. I am blessed with friends and family who love me as I am." However, there is always room for improvement. One of the neatest things about the journey of life is the ability to redefine oneself. Self-assessment can be painful at times, but all growing pains lead to growth, which is the important thing. If you are not growing, we are stagnating, and to me, that's a fate worse than death. So, part of this journey is self-assessment. It's looking at every part of it. Now, we all have whatever reason it is that we deal with body clutter. So at the end of that introduction, she tells us, to use this book as a tool. And while you're reading it, have a pen, a highlighter, notebook, something that you can just write down everything you need to, everything that comes to mind. One thing that I struggle with when I get into my journaling is I want it to be just right, just perfect. She says, don't allow your perfectionism to keep you from using what you have around the house. This is your body clutter control journal. You will see with each mission how quickly it will become your best friend. Your body clutter journey starts now. So I had started, and I just got a simple composition notebook, and I wrote down body clutter journal and the name, the title of the book, and the authors. And I just kind of went through some of what I shared today, the health issues. There's the boredom part. I noticed that I will snack on chips even now when I'm bored. Maybe it's really a comfort for this anxiety. The reason why I said this anxiety is because a while back I used to always say my anxiety, my depression, my whatever, my panic attacks. And a sister in the Lord, Margie, if you're watching this, thank you. She reminded me, don't call it yours. These aren't yours. These are things that may be happening to you, but they're not mine. Because I don't want them to become such a part of me that they define me. I don't want to claim that. So I want to work through that, and hopefully I can overcome that. Hopefully one day I will not struggle with these things. But even if that healing never comes, I still don't want that to define me. So that is one thing that really, it's been a struggle for me to stop calling things like that mine, because it's just the way we are. And I shared some other things that I think have shifted some of things that some of the way I deal with things now. With the loss of my mom, that really caused a lot of stress and a lot of the grief, and I guess the stress came from being the oldest daughter, the oldest child. And so I always went to my mom for things. Like the things that are going to happen in life. Go to someone for advice for anything that's going to happen. When I got older and things in life started changing, I remember my mom going through some of that, and she would share some things, but at the time it was like I was a lot younger, and it was like, oh, that's far, far away. I don't have to worry about that. So I didn't pay as much attention as I should have. And so now I think, who am I going to go to for those questions? Who am I going to ask? How did you deal with this? How did you deal with this thing that's going to happen? How did you deal with, especially with menopause and the after and everything that comes along with that? That would have been my mom's place, right? So that has been really hard for me, because it took a lot for me to even ask questions like that. And it was, or she was the one person that I could for sure ask, that I could trust with that. Now, of course, I have some people in my life, sisters in the Lord, who are there for me. And I know I can ask them these questions as well. But of course, it's not the same. No matter what, it's never going to be the same. But they are there, and I'm grateful for that. Now, let me see. I know this is for chapter 1, which I didn't read much of that one, but I can share a little bit of quotes from there, so then I can give you the questions that she has at the end of that chapter if you want to kind of join me in this. I don't know that I'll share this in every healing journey video, but when it comes to the weight loss part of it, or things that stand out to me, I will share. And one of the quotes in chapter 1 is called Food, the Ultimate Weapon of Self-Destruction. One of the quotes that I underlined: we all have foods that trigger some kind of past experience in us. Think about it right now. What food do you absolutely love so much that you cannot get enough of it? And for me, like I said earlier, was chips. And a lot of that was because, well, they're good. And it was just an easy snack. And it was something I remember when I was really young in elementary school. When I'd get home from school and I was hungry, I would get one of my parents, one of them, either my dad or my mom, would make homemade tortillas. Sometimes they'd come from my tia. And I would get some Lay's potato chips or whatever and throw them in there and smush them up. Sometimes I would add mustard. I know that might be gross to some of you, but that was my go-to snack. And then I think another thing with it being such an easy snack, it's something that I could just take to my room and just mindlessly eat it while I'm trying to process the day. Which I'll talk a lot more about, or a little more about that anyway, about how I process things because of some of the issues that I have with anxiety and ADHD and those types of things. And that kind of becomes an issue with either if I eat at all or if I don't eat, and how much I eat, and then all of a sudden I'm starving, and it's this like vicious cycle, I guess. This is another quote that I underlined, and I'm hoping this video will come together once I edit everything. Not all mindless eating is triggered by pain. Sometimes we let ourselves, this is what I do. Sometimes we let ourselves get too hungry, and then we start eating like crazy, giving into our cravings. Now, I did this a lot, and then a lot of the stuff that I would eat was, it's one of those high pain days. They didn't have much nutrition in them, so they would just, you could eat a whole bag of chips and yeah, you get a little full, but then you wanted something else, and then there you go for a cookie, a candy, or more chips, or just a piece of bread, or just things that were easy, quick, and simple to get. Well, a few years ago when I did a plant-based whole food diet, I believe in 2020 to into 2021, I changed how I snacked. And that helped me, and that's helping me now as well to pick the right snacks. I'm still struggling there now because I've let myself get into the habit of buying things that I shouldn't buy. Part of what I did with my snacks then that I'm hoping to implement now is I would do a lot of green apples, pickles. I would do a lot of avocado, and the fruit that I would do is mostly apples and berries. I love blackberries and strawberries, so I'd have a lot of those, and I mix those with nuts. Usually it was walnuts, some peanuts, cashews, and things like that. I would do almonds sometimes. I would do that with oatmeal. I'd use the steel cut oats, or even the regular oatmeal from, I think it was Bob's or bread. I am not sure what the brand is, but I'll do some type of food haul kind of thing to share some of the snacks that I chose to replace some of the things that I was eating before. And the chips, because it was my biggest weakness, I guess, I found some things at Sprouts, which I probably can be found in other like natural food, health food stores. I was doing, I cannot remember the name of the brand, but they're cauliflower puffs. They have beet puffs, and those are my two favorites. There was these others that were more like they're more like a corn chip, kind of little round corn chips, and one of them was cauliflower one. They did have a beet one. They have a spinach and something. I'm not sure what the other one was, but those were the ones that I would eat instead. And they helped quite a bit, actually, because that time when I was eating that, and I ate a lot of salad, and this is where I learned about a lot of different things that I had never tried before. Doing all of that, I learned a lot of things that were working with my body, because my thyroid was normal, my sugars were normal, and my sugars were actually normal. Because I was having a lot of low blood sugars at the time when I was doing that, taking the one medication at the time that I was taking. I did an experiment and just stopped taking them all because I couldn't get into the doctor. It was during COVID. It was just a big mess, and I was trying to find, I think I had a doctor here, but I was trying to get in, and it was just a mess. And a lot of it was just me, and I didn't want to go to the doctor. So don't ever quit your medication like that. I did an experiment, and I shouldn't have done that. No, but without the medication, my sugars were normal with the way I was eating. I had taken out pretty much almost all gluten, not everything, but because I was doing oats, and every once in a while I would have whole wheat toast or something, but for the most part, the only bread I was having was Ezekiel 4:9 bread, and that was still rare because I wasn't eating meat. I wasn't eating a lot of sandwiches, so they're kind of cut most of the bread because that's the only time I would use bread. It taught me a little bit about what I can and cannot have with what's going on with my body. And one thing I did learn is, I believe it's with the hypothyroidism. I'm not sure if the same thing with type 2 diabetes, and probably the same thing with PCOS, but gluten can trigger a lot of the inflammation and a lot of the issues with that, and dairy. At the time, I wasn't having either of those, and the only dairy I normally have anyway is cheese, because I'm slightly allergic to dairy, and butter is another thing that I will have. Do creamer in my coffee, but I don't know if the one I have now has any milk in it. I think it might have a little bit. I was doing the alternative ones, almond milk ones. Didn't really like the creamers for that. They're too watery. The oat milk ones were okay. The ones I was trying at the time, though, they had, I don't know, it was the taste of the smell of Play-Doh, if that makes sense. It was just weird. But I'm kind of wanting to go and experiment with some of that again and see if I could find something that I like, or if at all possible, to try to drink my coffee black, which, I don't know, maybe with cinnamon. That's how my mom used to drink hers. Or she'd drink it black or with cinnamon. And that's one thing she taught us, was for cramps, menstrual cramps, café con canela, just coffee with cinnamon, and that would help, and it does work for me. Okay, so I went off on a tangent there, but let's get back to chapter 1. Another one of the things was, we have to learn to be good to our body and stop and think before we feed the feelings. We need 3 basics to live: food to eat, water to drink, and air to breathe. We also need love and relationships with other people. We have hungry hearts that long for soul connections. When they don't happen, or when they are shortchanged, we often look for a way to self-medicate the pain and disappointment. For many of us, that medication takes the form of food. So, and I think this is part of the issue, because I tend to isolate a lot. I've done this since I was really young. Even when I have really good friendships and relationships with family, my marriage, I still isolate even from them, because there's something that within my mind that says, no, don't burden them with that. Don't share that. You don't need that. So then I kind of disconnect. And so it's kind of like walking in this, looking from the outside in, and I do that a lot. And I'm starting to learn how to have real connection and not be worried about other things, or worried about what they're going to think if I say this, worried about, well, what if I tell them I'm having a bad day? What if I'm dealing with pain, or what if I'm dealing with this? And how do I just tell someone, oh, I'm fine, and then just go, especially someone who I'm close to, excuse me, like someone who, family or really good close friends that share with me how they're feeling, and I can encourage them, give them advice if I have it, or just pray for them, or just listen and then pray for them. I'm not allowing other people to be like that for me, because I don't share those things, and that's, it's a problem. We need connection. One thing at the end of this chapter is, I might just read the whole last paragraph. I stopped abusing food when it suddenly dawned on me that the food I was using as an emotional shield didn't have the power to heal my heart. I realized it's only food, it's not love, it's not God. Food seemed all-powerful only when I gave it power. I had relinquished control to food for too long. I realized that I can love myself and I can take care of myself. I decided that no chocolate, no cookies, and no milkshakes can stand in my way if I don't want them to. And for me, that would be chips. But really, for me, a lot of it is just listening to my body, eating when I should eat, because I tend to just drink coffee all day, all morning, and I'll drink water. I do drink a lot of water, so that's good. But I do drink coffee from, early in the morning, and then I just won't eat. I won't eat. Sometimes I'll eat lunch, sometimes I don't eat that, then I eat dinner. And then sometimes that's small, or sometimes I don't eat a lot because I'll get full really fast, and then I snack. Or if I eat too late, it's the same thing, and my body does not react well to that. It doesn't work. Speaking of coffee, but this is my second cup. Before I do close this video out, and I may just start on another one right after this, because I want to try to get a few done in one day. So here at the end of this, your body clutter mission. This is certain things that she shares to do. Look back for your first memory of comfort food. Is it a certain food or any food? What is your favorite food when you need comforting? Now can you look back in your past to figure out why you love it so much? Write down your first memory of using food to comfort yourself, and what was happening to you and how you felt at the time. Just write as fast and as hard as you can. The writing will help you to get it out. Don't allow your perfectionism to get you hung up on grammar, punctuation, or spelling. Just write. You are the only one who is going to read this. Now, if you want to, you can share this with others. You can share your story in the comments. I know that the idea is, no one else is going to read this unless I want them to, right? But if I'm going to, I know for me, I can write it all down, get it out of my mind. But then I have this out of sight, out of mind. So then I forget everything I said. I forget promises I made to myself, that I was going to take care of myself. I was going to do these things because I put it over there. So I need to have some sort of accountability. And that's what these videos are. Like I've said before, that's part of the reason why I'm doing this. That not only gives me an outlet here, and also for others to share their stories and to share their advice. If there's something that you've done that has helped you, share it. I'm willing to learn. I'm open to learning things that, that I can do that'll better my life. And also, the people who watch this, my husband watches these sometimes, family, I haven't shared them all with them. I did kind of say I had a channel. I haven't really shared a lot of the videos with all of them, but eventually, if they do watch them, you know, I know somebody will say something. You know, they'll hopefully, you know, be able to see when I need that accountability. You know, that, you know, you're not supposed to be doing this, or maybe you should get this instead, or, you know, just whatever. Or even just asking, how are you doing? You know, how are you doing on this particular journey? I'm going to close out this video, and I wanted to share once again my verse for the year, my focus verse, because I think this, whoa, I moved the desk and everything moved. This is what I need to do for me, for all of this, for me to be able to continue this channel, for me to be able to go on this health journey and actually reach the goals that I want to reach. Do not worry at all, but in every matter by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to Elohim, to God. I'm reading out of the scriptures, so this does have the Hebrew, some of the Hebrew in there. Now, that is, I worry a lot. I worry about, what are people going to think? And I know there's critics out there, and I know there's people who just like to troll and who like to make rude comments and all that stuff. So knowing that, I need to not worry about that and just let it be. And use whatever does come through as something to help me grow. So I'll probably be sharing that scripture. Either I'll share it in every video, or it'll be in a clip somehow. I don't know. Something. But I want to continuously share that, because it's a reminder for me and for you as well to always go to Him first. Go to Him for the help that you need. Hopefully something that I shared today will bless you, encourage you, and give you something to think about. Share any comments that you have. If you have any advice, any if you've read this book before, did it help you? Are there other books like this that you've used? If you struggle with health issues similar to mine, or even just in general, are there books that you've read that have helped you? Because I have some books that are specifically for, I think, thyroid, and I think I have a PCOS book, which they're these really thick books, and I've had them for years and I haven't looked at them because they're daunting. You know, it's like this, and I don't know if it's just the way they were written. They're written more like a textbook, and sometimes those seem to be harder to like really get into. But if you have any suggestions, I'd greatly appreciate the advice and the, you know, any wisdom that you have on this. Great day, and I will see you in the next one. God bless you. Bye. You know, not stable, not, you know, whatever things that are happening. I don't know if any of that made sense. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to go back. So let's go back, rewind to before 18 minutes is where you need to go back to, Chrissy. And now.